you want to do some calculation, there is a calculation function like this. There are different types of functions.
Okay.
So first I will explain you all the functions individually, meaning what is the purpose of this function, what input we enter in this function, what output we can achieve. So there are different types of functions, meaning there are structure functions, there are information functions, there are processing functions, there are writer functions, there are query function. So information function bring data into PAPM. We'll explain you in detail what are those and how to do that. Then we have processing function, this process data within PAPM. Then we have writer and adapter functions are used to write back data into BW or like accounting document, like posting an accounting document after the processing. So that will be done in writer function. Query function will be used to display queries as per our design.
Okay.
So first I will explain each functions, what is the purpose of that function, what we can do. So once we have understanding of the function individually, then we will combine those functions to reach a business requirement or how we can achieve that. So for that I have an hands-on exercise, so which is available in the Learning Hub for SAP. So there will be an hypothetical scenario. There is a Bikers Dream Limited, which is a company which manufacture bicycles. And we will have some information available with us. What is the material cost, labor cost, overhead cost, factory cost, HR cost, finance cost, everything. So those are available in the tables. We will fetch the data and we do processings to arrive first material cost, labor cost, factory cost, overhead cost, allocate that service cost to production department, and all those things will happen. At the end, what we will have the profitability of each product type per unit. So that will be achieved in this hands-on exercise. So in this exercise, what will be there? The functions that we like learn in the individually, we will combine those functions to arrive those business requirements. So this one is a quite lengthy exercise, like 10 hours you can see, and the solution of this will be available. I will also share the documentation how to do that step by step, screenshot by screenshot. Everything is available. Now after that there will be an execution part. So this is the modeling user who do the modeling like consultants, and the execution done by end user. So after we learn how to set up a business requirement in the modeling part, then we set up how connect the modeling to the end user activity by configuring that modeling to the end user activity, so that end user can run those activities from my activity, because end user will not be able to see what is the backend modeling for that. So end user will see only my activity. There it will run allocation whatever we design in the modeling. So that part, how to configure your modeling so that end user can run those activities, that will be covered after that. And after doing this, I will be showing you one end-to-end scenario where I will be fetching data like live data from the AC.A, and I will take some sample example of how to do allocation and all. I will do allocate and I will do a post back again to AC.A using this adapter function. So that will be covered like an end-to-end scenario from end user perspective. First I will show the modeling, then I will connect that modeling to the end user, and then end user will run all the allocations from my activities. That will be covered like end-to-end scenario. After that, there are some miscellaneous topics that will be covered, like this application monitor, process monitor, history. I will explain you in detail what are those. And there are some tools which allow us to run a PAPM functions from GUI screen also in the background. So that is, there is also functionality to run some PAPM modeling from at a scheduled time in the background job, that is also available. So this will be covered, and let me show you the materials what we will be using for this training. And before that, let me show you one more thing. here are the deployment options of PAPM.
Mm-hmm.
So I will explain you each in detail, but just for an overview for the training. PAPM can be installed on S4HANA.
Mm-hmm.
It's an add-on like separate license, or PAPM can install on BW4HANA, and PAPM can also install on FSDP. This is financial subledger for insurance
Mm-hmm.
and banking clients. It can install here, or
Okay.
it can install in a separate HANA model without
Mm-hmm.
like anything, but then you connect it to different services.
Mm-hmm.
So in our training, we will be using on-premise like integration aspects, like you can use the same function in on-premise and cloud. For example, the file adapter. So
Mm-hmm.
for cloud file adapter, there will be some other options which are like cloud-based. For
Mm-hmm.
on-premise, these are based on on-premise, how you can do that. But the functionality wise, it is similar.
Okay.
And the next thing to mention here, like PAPM is 3.0, current server pack is SP17. So
Mm-hmm.
the training system that I am using is SP13. So SP13 itself, like a very good, you have all the functionality, but there are some improvements on some of the functions that will
Mm-hmm.
be like you will be able to understand by the SAP documentation once you cover this training.
Mm-hmm.
Now, let
I
me
got.
explain you
Yeah, yeah. Go ahead.
after this training. Yeah. So, if we consider a scale, let's say from beginner to advanced to expert, after
Mm-hmm.
this training, you will be able to handle the advanced portion till here. I will be
Mm-hmm.
explaining in the system with the sample data,
Mm-hmm.
kind of prototype of like real kind of scenario, but actual real scenario with real data will not be possible in the training systems. So that is one point that I want to make, because the once you understand how these functions are connected with each other to arrive at the
Mm-hmm.
business requirement, what you
Mm-hmm.
will be able to do after the training is like this. You will be able to understand any modeling from in the PAPM, how it is done, what are the rules, how the data is flowing, what is the complete data process. Now SAP PAPM provides some sample content.
Mm-hmm.
In this sample content, there is a huge list of industry specific and then this specific to a particular functions or those things. So after the training, you will be able to understand the sample content provided in SAP PAPM, and what you can do, you can copy that sample content and check the modeling, like how the data is starting from your, like if you particular understand for, let's say, for allocations.
Mm-hmm.
So after going to, like after you completed the training, you can go to the sample content, and there it is mentioned in detail why this allocation is happening, what are the functions that they are using, and how they are interconnected with each other, and how data is flowing. So you will be able to understand the sample content provided by SAP after this training. So the
Mm-hmm.
basic structure of training is like this. I will provide a document. You follow that document to do like one kind of this exercise for Bikers Team Limited. After
Mm-hmm.
that, what you need to do, you need to check the sample content and the assign industry. Let's say you have experience on particular allocations.
Mm-hmm.
So what you need to do, you need to kind of prepare a prototype of a process flow of the data instead of data flow, meaning like how the data is fetched for your source, like a source or sender for your allocation, and
Mm-hmm.
what is the allocation rule that you want to cover, and then what type
Mm-hmm.
of output you want to show to the user, and then where you want to post back, either on a BW or on a same AC doc or accounting document or a
Mm-hmm.
controlling document. That complete process, if you know, like
Mm-hmm.
in detail, what are the fields taking from source, will the field travel from source to target, and all those things. If you know that scenario, you try to create that in Excel, and
Mm-hmm.
then you can create the same requirement in using PAP. So you will be
Mm-hmm.
able to do that. After learning PAPM, only thing is that if you understand a process scenario of particular business requirement, you will be able to put that requirement into PAPM.
So I have a question. Uh,
Yes.
why do we use PAPM?
Yeah. We'll see this one also.
Mhm.
Why do we use PAPM? For that, yes.
Or what is the main function of PAPM? Because if we are talking allocation, then in S4
Mm.
there is already allocation process is there, right? Cost center allocation, okay,
Yes, yes.
or
Yeah.
top down distribution. So from top to lower,
Hmm.
there is a function you allocate the cost and you see the profit from margin analysis module. I mean, COPA module, you know, right?
Yes.
You do the
Correct.
profitability.
Yeah, COPA.
Yeah.
So this same profitability can be achieved by SAP controlling module. There is no
Yeah.
issue. But
Yeah.
the PAPM is faster. So meaning, let's say you have an S4 system already, and on the
Mhm.
in the controlling you set up your allocation process.
Correct.
So this allocation process, right? You configure it and then you run the allocation. When you run the
Mhm.
allocation, it works on a ABAP program at the backend. So this ABAP program is a standard one. Just you click on the allocation and it show the output. Now what happens in the backend? It is an ABAP program. What it does is it fetch the source data based on you decide in configuration on the cost center. Then it fetch
Mhm.
the source data. Then
Mhm.
it take the rules like how you allocate that in the backend in the program,
Yeah.
and then it do processing and show the output. This
Yeah.
happens in the backend using an ABAP program.
Mhm.
So here, if your current system is the timing of allocation and then showing the output and reporting drill down is you are happy with that, then PAPM will not add any value because PAPM will also do the same thing, but
Mhm.
on a different technology, meaning the same
Mhm.
thing will be done by PAPM, but it will be much more faster because it is taking the capability of HANA while processing. So if the same job of allocation, let's say it have 100 million records from source,
Mhm.
and it will
Mhm.
be allocating one line item from source into two. So this will be 200 million
Mhm.
records. And
Mhm.
when we do an offset, so this will be showing 300 million records. So now the processing time using an ABAP program will be very like more compared to PAPM. The same functionality if you do in PAPM, that will be like in the like within minutes also. So same thing you need to set up in PAPM, and the backend technology it will be using is on the HANA. So HANA
Mhm.
current limitation like it can handle 2 billion records in one function,
Mhm.
and it will be process those allocation or calculation much faster than a web program. Second thing, why you use PAPM? This is an example I'm giving from allocation perspective only. PAPM
Mhm.
can do more than allocation. So this allocation is one of the aspects of PAPM.
Okay.
Now the same example, if I take, let's say you have this is in happening in the same system. So this is a web
Mhm.
program happening in the same system. But let's say your company acquires some another the acquisition, that system is not SAP. Even if it is
Mhm.
SAP, you bring that interface into S4 and then do the same thing. But
Mhm.
PAPM can handle any data, meaning any data source, either SAP, non-SAP, different
Mhm.
types of formats. PAPM can you can send the data into PAPM with SAP data or non-SAP data like Oracle database you can access directly
Mhm.
in PAPM. So those kind of flexibility is there. Here in this ABAP requirement, let's say the sum of the allocation requirement of the business cannot be met by the standard program. So you need to call an ABAP person to write a custom code. But in PAPM, there is no such thing.
Mhm.
You need to model it. Either it is standard or like custom. Everything will be modeled by the PAPM consultant. So there is no coding involved in PAPM. I mean, if you want, you can have some advanced scenario where the coding can be there, but normally we do not do any coding. So it is just like selecting the function, selecting the fields, putting the allocation function, setting the what filters on what are the select sender values, what are the rules, and it you just run the allocation, it will do the allocation. And second thing, when you want to change the process, like let's say there is a requirement to change the modeling. So here, if there is a custom program, then you again need to code it that way. Or if there is a config change required, then you need to do the config change. But in PAPM, the same modeling, you can change it, and then you can do the processing based on the new functionality. So that is one thing. That's why you use PAPM. Now, earlier there was a tool by SAP PAPM, PCM, Profitability and Cost Management. So that tool is now replaced with PAPM. So everything will come into PAPM. So PAPM is just this combination of functions and how you achieve that. There is no standard way of doing things, but it will be provided like sample content, how you structure your modeling, but it is up to you how you design or use the functions to achieve that.
Do you have a
that we will discuss on the detail also.
Sure.
So let me go step by step. Like first we see kind of overview. What is this? So PAPM is an analytical tool developed by SAP. Previously it was developed by MSG Global, then SAP acquired this. So what was the earlier situation? SAP launched a tool which is FSPER. So SAP Performance Management for Financial Services. So what was this? It was a separate tool by SAP, which was only available for financial services like banking and insurance companies. So it was launched in 2017. And what was the unique capability of this is like it have provided calculation capability with real-time access to source data without need of data replication. So when PAPM fetch the data from external source, either SAP, non-SAP, it does not replicate the data into PAPM. It just fetch them on the real time. So there is no data replication. So this was the USP of this product from SAP, but it was only available for financial service sector. Now in 2018, what they did, they launched PAPM, it's a complete end-to-end analytical tool that can take data from many different places, perform calculation, do data enrichment, analyze the data output, and it have ability to run simulations. This will also, we will explain what is simulations. And PAPM only requirement is like HANA database. So on HANA database, it is the requirement. We cannot run PAPM without HANA database. And it was launched in 2018, and current release is SP17.
So it runs only on a HANA database?
Yes.
Okay.
You cannot install this on ECC, but we can connect ECC to PAPM.
Yeah.
So in a brief, like it was started like for financial services, main capability is like data replication, real-time data access without data replication, and faster calculation times compared to normal standard SAP scenarios. And it can perform calculations, allocations, derivations, all those things, and simulation. Simulation in the sense, let's say, do you create a modeling? In the modeling, you created like first you calculate raw material cost, then labor cost, and some other cost, and then indirect cost. You determine the percentage of indirect cost, something, and so on. Last is net profit. This is the modeling. Here, if you want to know what if my indirect cost increase by 2%. So that kind of scenario you can do. There, what you need to do, you need to decide a field, which is the percentage, as a user input. So once you give this field to the user, User will enter 1% and will see the impact on net profit. User will again enter 2% and see the impact on net profit. That is kind of what if scenario. You can also configure that kind of modeling to see the what if scenario. What if my indirect cost increased by 1%? How much net profit will be reduced? What is my indirect cost reduced by 1%? What will be the net profit? So those kind of scenario we can model in PAPM.
Okay.
Now here. So there are three main components of PAPM, what it can do. First is business data aggregator. So
Okay.
it can utilize data source from many sources like SAP or non-SAP without the need of data replication. So this is the main highlight of PAPM without the data replication. So there is no data redundancy. So this allow real-time connection, fast data loading when setting up the environment. Data also data replication is possible if desired. So if you have a requirement that you want to bring data into PAPM and store in PAPM, that is also possible. You can do that, but it will again be a data redundancy approach. For particular scenario, let's say small table, if you want to bring data into PAPM, then it's also possible. You can create those tables and store the data into PAPM also. It's optional, it's not like mandatory. Then is a calculation engine. So PPM can process large amount of data calculation, data management in parallel. Calculation can include things like joins, currency conversion, custom formula, SQL function, direct or indirect allocation. Calculation performed leave a data trail, allowing traceability and auditability. So you can decide what fields you want to carry from source, what fields you want to show to the user. The traceability will be there based on your modeling.
Okay.
And then once the output is available, after that you can write back data to a BW, or you can use an RFA function to post back as an accounting document to the target system. So that is one. Calculation is very fast and it can do parallel calculations. It use many threads from HANA. So the runtime is comparatively very small compared to a web. Now next, third one is simulation application. So that I explained you just now. What was the simulation? So that the same thing, like you can check what if my particular field is increased or reduced, what will the impact on overall modeling part. So that is, there are three main components of PAPM. So allocation is one of the function in PAPM, but it can do multiple, like other, like if you want to just bring a report from, let's say, daily sales outstanding, that also you can configure in PAPM and can show to the user. It's not only the allocation part. You can do some complex calculations in PAPM also.
Okay.
Now, when to use PAPM? So basically, when there is multiple systems, SAP, non-SAP, everything, then simulation and review required. Like if you want to quickly check what if scenarios. So what if scenario, you don't need to do any custom coding or anything. You just need to model in such a way that the what if scenario is activated, and you give the user the field that they want to change, and they can see impact of that in just like just click of the second. It will reflect the outcome on the reports directly. That speed is faster, like it is very fast compared to normal ABAP processes. And flexibility is important. I mean, to change the PAPM model, it is not as complex as changing in the custom code or web development or any other like analytics tool. It does not require any coding knowledge. Like PAPM person who know how to handle the functions can do the modeling change. So custom coding can be avoided. Custom development cost can be avoided. So these are the main components of why we use PAPM on top of the existing solutions. So the current like projects that I've been working with, like they have Their scenario is like they have some system, let's say called Hyperion. They were doing
Hmm.
allocation, but source data was coming from PeopleSoft, also from Hyperion, and some
Hmm.
ECC something.
Hmm.
So my scenario was slightly different. So what they want is like they want to migrate this complete allocation process to
Hmm.
an S4 system that they have and install a PAPM. So everything, all the allocation they want to migrate into PAPM. So
Okay.
this was quite lengthy process. So this was done in two waves. Like first wave we migrate the internal allocation, then second wave we migrate external allocation. So
Hmm.
that it was a huge data volume they were handling, and now everything is migrated into PAPM. And they what they do now, they select the parameters for center, period, fiscal year.
Hmm.
They schedule it be 1 p.m. in the night, 1 a.m. in the night,
Hmm.
and it have like hundreds of millions of data. By the time they
Hmm.
wake up, everything is posted back to ACDOK again. So this is
Okay.
like you can schedule it in the night also, so or
Hmm.
you can run on the real time also. So that is
Hmm.
PAPM functionality, like it can be used in different ways.
Hmm.
Now there
I
are
have a one.
similarity. Mhm,
Hmm.
yes.
I have a one question. Sorry to interrupt here. Do we have a
Mhm.
cases in? I mean, do we have a scenario in PAPM where uh, after running the allocation, something unallocated remains?
Mhm.
In the system?
And allocated remains means you want to say, let's say we want to post 50 line items and it posted only 20.
No, I mean, you let's say you have a sender from S4 or any external source, right? And based on